Hi, everyone. This is Lexi Hurd. My full name is Alexandra. I use she, her pronouns. I am an Associate Dean of Admission at Amherst College, which is located in Amherst, Massachusetts. Excited to be here today to chat a little bit about Amherst College, our partnership with Service to School, and any of the resources that we offer for our military connected students that are interested in applying to Amherst. I put my email address on the bottom of the first slide that you're looking at right here, so do feel free to jot that down. And I will also have it available again on my final slide today. And I have found over the many years of working with our students who have come to Amherst, especially those who are considering transferring or have a military background, it's often the best thing is just to start with a conversation. I can learn about where you are in your educational journey and process, and I can also tell you a little bit about Amherst, our policies, our processes, and learn a bit about each other to find if we're going to be a successful match for one another, which is really the ultimate goal through this whole process for everyone. A little quick bit about Amherst College. We are a small liberal arts college in the western part of the state. So we are about an hour and a half west of Boston and about 3 hours north of New York City. We have about 1,800 to 1,900 students. So by almost anybody's measure of what small is, we fit that bill. We have students from all over the world, and one of the reasons that we have such a commitment to our community college transfer students and also our military veterans is that we really do value having a student body with a lot of different perspectives, lived experiences. We really do believe that education here is something that's living, it's breathing, it's constantly evolving. A lot of the liberal arts is about that. And that is what we do. So the type of education that we offer here is one that is relatively broad-based. If you looked among our majors, and I have an upcoming slide, a little bit about academics at Amherst, you will quickly realize that, we don't have any majors that are directly related to pre-professional aspects. I will talk a little bit about how we tie that into then, of course, job placement, graduate school placement, and things like that as well. But a broad-based learning is really what we're hoping for here at Amherst. We're also an undergraduate institution only. We see that as a strength of Amherst because it means that every resource that we have here at Amherst College, all the decisions that we're making as an institution are made with undergraduate students in mind. So there's no competitions that you're having on this campus between master students, PhD students, professional degree students, and undergraduates. Every staff member, every faculty member at Amherst, every time the president's making a decision or the board of trustees is making a decision, we're making that decision with our undergraduate student population in mind and saying, is this in the best interest of us having the best type of community and education for these students as possible? So as promised, here's a little bit of a slide that has a quick rundown of sort of what we offer there. So we have majors in the liberal arts across the humanities, social sciences, natural sciences, and mathematics, and foreign languages. Mathematics is actually our most represented major at the moment. So sometimes when folks sort of hear the term liberal arts and they think, well, I want to be a computer science major, or I'm really interested in health sciences or something like that, you're like, oh, I need to go to a professional program for that. And that is not the case necessarily for an undergraduate experience. So it really is what you are looking for. As I mentioned here in the slides, which you can take a look at yourself, you can expect really small class sizes. So if you are a student that is looking to have an experience where you really do get to know your faculty, where you do really get to know your fellow students, these are the kind of communities that these kinds of places are often students are often drawn to. So 80% of our courses have fewer than 30 students as part of them. Our student to faculty ratio is 7-to-1. So you can imagine, and our faculty teach roughly 2 classes in a given semester. So you can just start to imagine that if a faculty is teaching 2 classes in a semester and the average class size is about 16 students, on average, these faculty members are working with a very reasonable number of students in a given semester. And I visit community colleges, all over the country. And those faculty are the most amazing faculty out there, but sometimes they're dealing with teaching 5 or 6 classes. Sometimes they have 30 students in each one of those. And then sort of their resources are having to be distributed among a lot more students in terms of time, attention, and things like that as well. We don't have graduate student TAs in any of our classes, so you are going to be interacting with a faculty member 100% of the time. That's true for office hours, of course, class time, but when you have a question, the professor is the person that you're going to email, and you can expect to have an email back from the professor in short order. And they might say, hey, let's meet up at the Science Center Cafe and talk about things, and try to figure out how we can get to know each other and maybe best assist you if you have a question about some of the material and things like that. Amherst can also be a really great incubator for research opportunities. And we have a wonderful sort of huge swath of research opportunities available to our students. And in the absence of us having graduate students on campus, our faculty members hire our undergraduate students to be their research assistants. So regardless of what you think you may want to study, there are research assistant positions available in those different departments. So just know that if that is something that you are looking for in an experience as your next step, these are places where those are very, very accessible opportunities for students as well. What we hope you get in a liberal arts experience in terms of the academics, the sort of product that you're leaving with, is not a working knowledge of a career. It's not necessarily a working knowledge of a particular job or industry, but it's a skill set. And that's what we focus on. So a skill set in critical thinking and problem solving and the ability to communicate. Those are buzzwords. They're really wide ranging. But really what you're going to be doing in the classes at a liberal arts institution like Amherst is understanding how complex the world really is. And you all know this from your lived experiences, right? From the fact that you've done this already out in the world on the ground. But you are going to be confronted with difficult situations all the time. Sometimes you're sitting at this situation, and you're like, I don't see the best answer here, or I don't see a right or good answer here yet. I still need to move forward with this. That's you exercising your critical thinking skills. So regardless of what it is that you're studying at Amherst, it could be computer science, it could be philosophy, it could be sociology. At the end of the day, what skill set that you are really, really working and flexing again and again and again is one in which you are understanding how to ask really good questions in really difficult situations, how to understand and break down really complicated sets of issues. That doesn't mean that you're going to come up with a solution to all of them, but it means that you're doing an earnest effort in trying to kind of understand often these very contradictory concepts that are coexisting together. And you're doing that with other students, with faculty members, and with staff who might have very different opinions on this than you. And that's the value of having a lot of perspectives in a classroom, is that you're going to be met with something that you say, I thought I got this, right? And then all of a sudden kind of understand, oh, wow, I had missed these whole aspects of what was going on here. And to be a better person, and to be a better connector, to be a better employee after you're graduating, to have a bigger impact in the world, perhaps after you graduate, I need to understand, what I might be missing in terms of how I evaluate things and how I can get that information so that I can make the most informed decisions about things moving forward. So that's the liberal arts sort of in a nutshell. I did want to share sort of how that connects to the broader employment world, to the broader graduate school world, because these are very real things. Students are coming to Amherst and they're saying, this sounds great. I love to study these things, but at the end of the day, I am a student that might be a little bit older than your incoming other students. And I want to make sure that the investment that I'm going to make in my undergraduate education, if it is at Amherst, what that's going to mean for me in terms of opportunity afterwards. So among our most sort of our highest enrolled departments, I guess I'd say, that doesn't necessarily mean they're the best departments, but I mentioned mathematics, we have English, economics, political science, biology, psychology is up there as well. And our students, as you can see, are going on to all different types of industries. This graphic is from 2020. However, it just happened to be the best looking graphic I could find of the recent data that we have for the last class of 2022. The different employment industry breakdown is the same, pretty much. So, students are leaving at Amherst College and being very well prepared and positioned to be excellent candidates out there in job forces, in graduate school, and about 80% of students will go to graduate school after Amherst within 5 years of graduating. And although we don't have graduate programs, these students, our alums, are entering the best graduate programs across the world and across the nation there. So you can see financial services, education, technology and data, consulting, healthcare. Now, if you look at our undergraduate majors, you do not see a financial services major. You do not see a technology and data undergraduate major here. So I just want to make this sort of a real tie to the fact that the critical thinking, the problem solving, the communication skills, and will you have a different technical skill set if you're a computer science major here than an English major? Absolutely. But the foundation of what you're leaving with is quite similar. But I put this graphic up here in this next slide that I'll show you too, in terms of the range of employers that we have, that these are things that employers are looking for, that the biggest organizations out there, some of the ones that are doing really amazing work out in various different fields, they're hiring liberal arts undergraduate students. So I just wanted to put that out there in terms of where folks are going in terms of employers. And these are folks, the first destination after graduation. This is what this is indicating to us as well. Two quick things about Amherst that are a little bit different about us than some of the other small liberal arts institutions out there. We have something called an open curriculum. There are some other institutions out there that have an open curriculum, but by and large, most don't. And what that means is that we do not have general education or distribution requirements. So there's no core education requirements here. You are required to be a full-time student at Amherst. If you enroll, you will also have to select a major, and your major will have some requirements as part of that. And you will also be expected to be on campus if you enter as a first-year student for 4 years, and if you enter as a transfer student, depending on how much credit you're transferring in, somewhere between 2 and 3 years. This gives ultimate flexibility to students in terms of what it is that you would like to study, how you would like to navigate your education, and how you make the most of your time at this institution. It encourages you to be really in tune with what excites you about the educational process, because there is no reason to be sitting in a class which you are like, I don't like this class. This class is not exciting to me. There's no reason for that to be the case here. The open curriculum is a major reason why many students choose Amherst. They are very excited about that aspect, about being able to take control of your education, and you will not be doing it alone. You will have a faculty advisor, and the faculty advisor's role is to help you navigate that, ask you some good questions about what you're hoping to get out of your educational experience here, but it is sort of a hallmark of the Amherst experience. The other aspect is that we're part of something called the 5-College Consortium. So in addition to Amherst College, there are 4 other institutions listed on the slide here that total about 30,000 undergraduate students. Once you are a student at Amherst College, you can enroll and take classes, and enroll is the wrong word, but you can take classes at any of these other institutions free of charge. So in some ways you get 5 colleges for the price of 1. The systems are set up so that it can be very seamless for students to do this. So it jumps your course offerings from about 850 to now about 5,000 classes that are available to you. So in many ways, you get the benefits of being at a smaller institution, small class sizes, close interaction, and many of the resources of being at a much larger university at the same time. All in all, about 30,000 undergraduate students in this consortium. There's a free running public transportation system. It connects everything in the area, including the campuses. It goes to the shopping areas. It goes to residential areas. So you actually do not need a car in this area to get around either. The fact that we also have 30,000 college students in this area also means that we have some of the opportunities extracurricularly in terms of clubs, organizations, restaurants, lecture series, concerts, things like that that are catering to a population of 30,000 students here. So again, the benefits of being at a small institution with some of the pluses of also being at a large institution too. I wanted to quickly just touch on our student community. We have had longstanding commitments for community college transfer and U.S. service members and veterans here at Amherst. I've worked with these student populations since 2010. It is my favorite part of my job. We do guarantee on-campus housing for transfer students, and there are resources in the community for finding apartments if you're choosing not to live on campus. We have a spring and fall entry program for transfer students. If you are thinking of applying as a first-year student, you would enter in the fall only, and some transfer targeted programs here that I'll talk a little bit more about on the next slide too. In terms of some of our military and veteran resources, we have a resource center on campus called the Class and Access Resource Center, whose mission statement is to help support our transfer, veteran, first generation, and low income students. There's also a pilot veteran mentoring program that we have on campus, a few social events throughout the community, which tie together our student community and then also our staff and faculty community that identifies military connected, and some other aspects to note on there as well. In terms of financial aid, some of you may have veteran educational benefits through a variety of different sources. We definitely encourage you to explore what that would look like for you to use them here. And we also encourage all students to apply for our need-based financial aid here at Amherst College. It is a very comprehensive need-based financial aid program. Many, if not most, of our student veterans find that the need-based financial aid program is strong enough for them and they're receiving enough money through a calculated financial aid package that they do not need to utilize their VA benefits, or they choose not to do that. So they can save them for another opportunity down the road, be it graduate school or a family member and things like that. So not using your educational benefits is a very, very real possibility at this institution and still having a very, very affordable experience here. I have a quick slide on transfer of credit before we wrap up here. I'm not going to go too much in depth to this, but with the open curriculum, what I will say is that it makes it very, very possible that depending on if you are thinking of applying as a transfer student, I am not necessarily worried about if you are filling prerequisites for general education requirements at Amherst. So if you are on a path in a California community college, system for the AGETSI or something like that, which I know is highly prescriptive, applying to Amherst at the same time, provided you are taking some general courses for that, generally works in terms of transferability very, very well. If you email me, I can send you some resources about how to think about the transfer of credit process here, but do know that if you apply and you're admitted to Amherst, you will receive an official credit evaluation letter with your letter of admission, which will have a course-by-course listing of what it is that is being accepted for transfer credit, and it will also include your graduation date on there. So you will have lots of information about that before you decide that you need to enroll, which is great. I also want to note that any student can also apply as a first-year student at any point. So even if you have a bunch of college credit, you can still apply as a first-year student to Amherst College, and that's a rarity in a lot of places. And if you decide that you'd like to spend 4 years at Amherst as an institution, we can do that. And I will let you know that if you are utilizing our need-based financial aid program and you are doing that, we will make sure that you are fully funded, right, through financial aid. You have to reapply every year, but you're not going to necessarily run out of financial aid because you've already used some of that at another institution. So that's my contact information again. I appreciate you sitting down and listening for a little bit about Amherst. And please do reach out with any additional questions that you might have about Amherst College or the process. Happy to be a resource for students at any time.
And Lexi, we have some questions queued up for you in the chat room.
Perfect. So currently, Brian, we don't have many resources right now to help students and families find housing in the area. Students have been able to do that in the past. I can give some tips on that, but we don't have a formalized process for that. So it is something to keep in mind when considering Amherst, that will be a part of the process. Different people have sort of figured this out in different ways over the years. Occasionally we've had the student enroll at Amherst for a semester, and while they're here for that semester, feel a little bit more secure that they had some time to find some housing for their family. So maybe they'd be here for the first semester, secured housing for their family that they can not do sight unseen or something like that, and then move the family out here after one semester, if that's the plan. But other students have made it work, and I'm happy to put anybody in touch with some of our current students who've done that as well. What does Amherst consider above and recent coursework and GPA when reviewing applications? So in terms of what we're considering, we have a lot of students that apply as transfer students and our military students who have not always had a relationship with education that represents their current ability or desire to engage with education. So I read a lot of students who end up being very, very successful students and alumni at Amherst who have a high school GPA that is quite low. We're much more interested in your recent academic work and how that means, what that translates for you. And what we ask and what we'll see is in the various other parts of your application, how do you reflect upon, your journey so far? And that's okay that you haven't always maybe had a 4.0 or something like that the whole time. It's very, very common that among our transfer students and military students, they've had life experiences that have brought them to a different place right now. So that's a very common pathway. Applicants do not need to declare a major when applying. So we are an institution to which you would apply to Amherst College. If you are admitted to Amherst College, and this is true whether you are a first-year student or a transfer student, you are eligible to enroll in every major that we have here. So that is not a decision that you need to make at the point of application. If you are applying as a transfer student, at any point, actually, we'll ask you about your academic interests. We do look at that loosely. And that's largely because if you're listing, I want to be a mathematics major and a computer science major as my academic interest, but you have absolutely no math classes or computer science classes or any experience in life doing that stuff, we want to make sure that you have enough time on campus here to make sure that you have the skill set to be able to get the skill set to jump into that. But we don't have quotas on certain majors. So, you don't need to worry about sort of gaming a system in that way. Every major in the full curriculum remains open to students. The next question I'm seeing is, many veterans plan to apply to professional schools after completing undergraduate. How does Amherst support these students? And so as I mentioned before, about 80% of Amherst students will go to graduate school after graduating. Most of those 80%, I don't have the exact percentage, are in professional programs. So we do have a good number of students that go on to do PhDs. In fact, Ed, who I saw just at the VetLink Summit recently, is starting a PhD in history at the University of Chicago in a year. But most students that are graduating are going on MBA, medical school, JD, Masters in Public Health, you name it, right? I have a master's in education. So part of our Loeb Center, which is our Loeb Center for Career Study and Exploration, part of their role is to help students think about translating the Amherst experience or what their hopes might be professionally in terms of graduate school, internships, research experience, job placement, and how to translate that. So currently we have 7 different industries represented with professional staff members who keep a pulse on those various industries. They also keep a pulse on those graduate schools that might be linked to particular industries, and they do assist students throughout that entire process. And they will also assist students who have graduated from Amherst through that process. So even after you've graduated from Amherst and you're a few years out and you have some questions about, hey, I'm thinking of applying to a master's in public policy program. How should I think about doing that? What types of schools should I look at? You can always come back to the Loeb Center for that information, which is great. What resources does Amherst have for family members, such as healthcare, childcare, employment, pet care, recreation, etc. So that's a pretty wide ranging question. I think some of it will really depend on what a student needs and what they're really looking for in terms of that. But in terms of our area generally, outside of the college itself, we do have a VA hospital in the town that's just adjacent to the town of Amherst. Actually, it's 2 towns over. It's about 15 minutes away. So if that is a resource that you're looking for, that is something that we have locally here. And again, with the free running public transportation system in the area, you do not need to rely on a ride share or have your own vehicle to be able to get back and forth from there really easily. In terms of schools and childcare in the area, we are a small town, so we have about 35,000 residents that live here year round, but we are supported by many, many different educational institutions. So it is an area that is very focused on making sure that there's a lot of cultural opportunities, that education is strong in the public education system here. And any students that have specific questions about that, do feel free to reach out. We'd love to have a conversation with you so that we can make sure that as you're thinking about applying to Amherst in a place like Amherst, that we can mutually support you in that process for sure. So any other questions in the chat, or if I missed one, feel free to repost it as well, because sometimes the little chat box gets a little small. So
Looks like you hit all the questions, Lexi.
thank you. And I will drop my email address in the chat one last time, if that would be helpful to anyone, and look forward to connecting.